vivid memories, but I have like specific memories from when I was like a year and a half.
Vivid. So specific
no, I don't
memories.
have vivid memories. I
So
have
what
specific
specific memories do you
So
remember?
I remember being in a ball pit at Chuck E. Cheese, and my parents throwing ball. This is my parents. I know that this was a long time ago because my parents were together. So yeah, I had to be like at least one because my dad left when I was like 2, so it had to be before 2 years old. But I remember I was in a ball pit at Chuck E. Cheese. My brother didn't exist yet, and they're throwing, taking balls, throwing it onto the roof of the ball pit, and my brain was processing it as they were like throwing it through the roof. So I like would grab a ball and throw it up, trying to copy them and replicate them, and they would laugh because they have a baby in here and they're throwing balls on the roof of the thing, and they would see me go, and they would just laugh at it. So that's one memory, crazy memory.
Interesting.
Crazy memory to think about. And then I think that's the earliest memory. And I also have a memory, I don't know how old I was, of me holding a bottle, and I was crying because nothing was coming out. And the only reason I had this recollection of this memory is because our daughter, I didn't realize like bottles had different like strengths. Like a different amount of milk would come out of like a bottle.
Oh, yeah.
I remember I was holding a bottle when I was a baby, and I would cry because there was nothing coming out of the bottle, and then my dad had to poke a hole in the top because we were poor, so we didn't really just have different
Yeah, you didn't
bottles.
have different bottle tops.
So they he just was real ghetto, got a little like staple or something and poked a hole to the top of the bottle, and then I would just drink from that. And then it soothed my crying because I stopped crying, because I would cry and then like my parents would be like, what the fuck, like, help the baby.
Right.
And they poked a hole in the top of the bottle, and then I drank it. So this
Interesting.
had to be, this is before my brother. So it had to be like, I had to be like 1 or 2.
Yeah, I think my earliest memory, I had to be maybe 3 or 4. I remember I had this weird color pattern jacket, and I was wearing it while pooping, and I was pooping by myself. That's the only thing that I remember. I was just in my bathroom, just and the only reason why I remember it is there's a photo of me in that jacket. I think I had to be maybe 3 or 4, but I vividly remember being in the bathroom pooping.
It's crazy how you can remember
That's the
that
only
stuff.
thing I remember from that age. And then from age 4, there's probably just one preschool memory of just learning how to pronounce the words cat and dog, and that's it. Outside of that, probably the next memory, I'm maybe 6 or 7. I can't remember anything
It's wild how
else.
like you only have specific memories. Like I said, like I have, let me think. I remember getting my little brother from the airport. I remember 9/11.
Yeah.
9/11
I mean,
was
well,
crazy.
yeah, because we were a little bit, because 9/11 happened when I was 7.
I was 5.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
5. 9/11 was 2001.
Yeah, 2001. I was in school. I
about to turn
vividly
6,
remember
and
9/11.
I thought like I did 9/11. Because yeah, it was like a weekend or something. I don't know what day was it. What day was 9/11?
Tuesday.
Weekday. I remember we were planning a birthday party for me. Like that entire week, my mom was planning a birthday party for me, and then all of a sudden it was like, oh my God, 9/11, and I thought it was related to my birthday. So I'm like, yo, did I do this?
That's interesting.
I'm like, was it me? Did I cause 9/11 for my birthday party? Like it was a weird.
Wow.
My little kid brain made a weird like connection to like I didn't understand the concept of a giant airplane crashing into the Twin Towers.
Oh, I understood it.
And the entire
I
week,
understood it.
The entire week was just them talking about my birthday.
Yeah.
And planning it. Like the adults were just talking about how like what they're gonna do for my birthday. So I assumed I'm like, they're only talking about my birthday.
Yeah, yeah.
And this like 9/11 thing, and they're like, I'm like, oh no.
It was different for me because I was in New York. So I thought my mom died. Like it was wild. Yeah. And funny enough, I asked my dad
That's
a
crazy.
couple of months ago because I had never actually talked to him about it. I'm like, yo, what was your thought process when that was happening? Like, did you think your wife was not gonna make it home?
did
Because
you
they
see it?
shut everything off.
Did you see it?
No, did I see in the distance? Yeah, I saw everything in the distance. Like I
Bruh.
remember after, because I didn't see like the burning the building, but you could see the smoke
Nah, that's
from
still
Brooklyn.
crazy.
You could see everything. And I remember they put like blue lights. Anybody who's from New York who's watching the pod right now can tell you there were blue lights that they had that was shooting from the bottom of Ground Zero, and I forget how long they were up, but I could see it from my bathroom. Like if I go to my parents' house right now, I could still look out the window and vividly remember the same direction where
that's
those
wild.
blue lights were.
Well, no shit.
But,
Yeah, obviously you're gonna know. For me,
Yeah,
I'm a kid.
yeah.
I don't even know what the United States is. I'm not in school or nothing.
bro,
so
it was crazy.
in LA, like my only world was like my immediate world. So they're like in New York. I'm like, I don't know what that is.
Right, because you never think anything outside of it. But for me, I thought it was the entire world just got attacked.
Yeah.
And what actually screwed it
Yeah.
over for me was my mom. She worked in like way upper Manhattan, so she was nowhere near it. But she was in the city to where she could see it, going down. But communication got cut. When I asked my dad about it, he told me he had spoke to my mother already after it had happened, so she ensured him that he was okay. She was okay, and I guess it was just a long process to make it back because they shut down the train, they shut down the bridge. My mom was everybody was supposed to come back immediately home.
Crazy.
It took her all day to come back. I think she came back maybe about like 1 a.m. or something like that. But I'm sitting in the house, and my dad did an amazing job to have myself and my brother. My uncle picked me up from school. My dad went to go get my brother, and we were just in the house like, well, what happens now? He had us in, we almost necessarily didn't have a care in the world per se. He assured us that everything was going to be all right. But looking at how the other kids was reacting when we were in school and getting pulled out of class, there were some classmates that had people who worked near the building. Now, crazy. I knew a couple of people who had died, but, well, at least their family members had died. But my dad, I think about it now, like he did a sensational job of keeping myself and my brother, you know, level-headed with what happened. But I asked him, like, yo, so you were never concerned that your wife might not make it back? Because he was just in the house with us the whole day, just sitting there. No call from my mom, nothing of that nature.
I think as a man, you kind of have to like put your emotions to the side.
Stoicism.
And live with what you got to live with. Because like for me, whenever something happens in the world, I'm kind of like, okay, can I do anything specifically to change this? If the answer is no,
control what you can control.
Fuck it. If I die, I die. That's what I look at. Like that's like kind of my view on the world. I'm like, if I can't control it, if I die, I die.
Right. That makes it.
I'll leave it to the man upstairs to sort that.
That takes me right into our topic of conversation for today, regarding, you know, it's June, so you know what that means. It's Men's Mental Health Month. So it's only right that we take a moment to check in with all the fellas. Ladies, you can also be a part of the conversation as well. But primarily, just like, what's your mental health state at right now? Because, I mean...
Talking about your feelings is gay.
Hey, listen.
Pride Month, baby. That's why it's Pride Month.
Hey, they did us dirty.
Pride Month.
They did us dirty.
Pride Month. Listen,
they put us in there.
They're testing to see who's gay. They're like, all right, we're going to say it's men's mental health awareness. Whoever actually talks about their mental health as a man, they're gay.
That's probably the mood. Hey, how are you feeling? I'm feeling fabulous. Oh yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Take him away.
He's the queer. No, but I mean, it's your first now, what, month and a half being a father, things of that nature.
Man, okay, so this is my take on men's mental health. It is rough. A life as a man is rough. I thought about this the other day, and I was trying to I think of poetic ways to make sense of my life because it gives me peace. And I think a man's life is rough in general. Like your entire life is fucking rough, but you also have the lowest lows and the highest highs. And it seems like that's a common trend with men. Like there was an Andrew Tate thing and he confirmed it later, but like men tend to be on the lowest and the highest ends of like the IQ spectrum.
Right,
so the smartest people in history
are men. The dumbest people are also men.
And then the women tend to fall like all in the middle. So on average, it's like it equals out because men have the higher scores and the lower scores, and then women are all in the middle. But I think that's kind of like how life is also. Men get to experience like the greatest experiences in the world, but also a majority of men also experience a lot of the lows that come with it, and it's a prolonged period of like loneliness and sadness. That's the male experience.
Right.
As a man, your entire life is hard. But the reason I started thinking about this is because my wife has been having a hard time with we just had a baby, and our entire time with our relationship, I've always been like the type of guy that's like, listen, I'm gonna provide for you and protect you and make sure you need everything you have, but when the baby gets here, that's your job. You don't have a job. Your job is the baby. Right? Fuck your 9 to 5, whatever you want to do. Like your baby is the job. I think a woman's struggle comes with motherhood, and a man's struggle comes with like a life of achievement. So I'm gonna elaborate on that. Like, I don't envy my wife having to be up. Like she barely sleeps. She sleeps like 3 hours a day, and it sucks. And she's feeding the baby. She can't take any breaks. She has to do it, right? Or she's a shitty mother. That fucking sucks. When I see that, I'm like, yo, and on top of that, she's recovering, so her body's all fucked up.
Right.
She's pushed the baby out. She's all hormonal. She doesn't have time for herself. So, like, she has a struggle. That's a massive struggle raising a kid. It's a fucking endeavor. But I'm like, listen, your life prior to this was fucking easy. You had to do nothing. You're pretty. You get in wherever you want. You don't have to pay for shit. Like, you had to fucking walk in the park. So now you have a baby. Your life is fucking...
This is the adversity.
It's a compressed version of what men go through. They shove it all within, like, in the motherhood process of however long that is, right? 16, 17, 18 years. Because seeing what she has to go through, I'm like, yo,
Well, then again, it never really ends, even
That
after the
sucks.
baby's become an adult. But y'all had because I'm sure people are like, wait a minute, what are you talking
Well-
about? She's on her own, dude. Because you guys have an
well, she's
agreement.
not, though, because she
of-
has my support fully. Like, as
Well,
far as
yeah,
everything else.
you take care, but then I guess if they hadn't watched the prior episode where you talked about the dynamic,
Yeah.
because ultimately the agreement that the two of you guys had upon prior even
I
of
think
the
what
birth.
happens is with men and women, because they both have struggles, we live in a world now where they both share the struggle.
Right,
So,
right.
So a man and a woman will share the struggle of having to pay for the bills
Yeah.
and provide for the family. Right? Like you have men and women like, oh, I'll pay 50%, you pay 50%. Oh, babe, the light bill's due. Can you pay for the light bill? Like, I will never ask my wife to pay for anything. In the same way that, like, she will never, I mean, she could ask me if she's really struggling and I'll help her because I'm a good guy. But, like, she'll never ask me to instead of work, go help her with the baby.
Right.
We have our, like, our
You
roles,
separate the burden.
and we have
Right.
our struggles, yeah.
right.
So, like, we each have different burdens. I have a man's burden, she has a woman's burden. But nonetheless, I think the issue that comes with it is we talk about men's mental health because people don't care about men's struggle. Because you have a mother, everyone, like, pregnancy privilege is a real thing.
Yes, actually, yeah. Because Charles Barkley had said a quote some years back. He was like, yo, women be milking the pregnancy thing. Because if it was really as difficult as it may be, why you keep getting pregnant?
No,
I mean,
but so it's true. Like, my wife was pregnant, and, bro, it's a struggle being pregnant, but the amount of fucking, like, shit you get, like, we would be in line and be like, oh, no, go to the front. Or we would come to a restaurant and be like, oh, it's a 40-minute wait. And they'd be like, no, we got you a table. Don't worry. Like, she'd be like, oh, I can't stand. No worries, come here. Went to a comedy show, and we were like, oh, like, I was like, can we buy VIP tickets? They're like, we're sold out. We can't do anything. I was like, oh, well, shit. And then, sure enough, they saw her pregnant waddle into the line. They're like, nah, come here. We're going to let you in. So we got in first. Like, the pregnancy privilege is real. So I think women's struggle almost gets discredited because they get all of, like, the, oh, my God, are you okay? Do you need any help? Oh, you just had a baby? Oh, how can I help you? Like, motherhood is hard. Then they look at a man's struggle. Oh, you have to provide. You better fucking do it. There's no, like, oh,
there's no cop-out.
There's no, like, oh, I feel so bad for you. You have to provide. And, like, it's hard working those long hours. It's like, oh, you're a man. Do it. And because you have that, that's why there's the rise of the red pill. Because men's mental health gets, like, swept under the rug almost. I feel like men and women, it's not that men have a harder struggle. It's just it gets swept under the rug. And I think that's the issue.
Yeah, you know, that's a very interesting point that you make, because I think a lot of people when they listen to something like that, they be like, well, it's very misogynistic to say, oh, well, pregnant women get benefits and they have privileges. But really, think about it. When a woman is crying, the natural inclination that happens is, oh, are you all right? What's going on? When a dude is crying, look at this bitch. Come on now, what are we talking about? Because even if mans went through something completely catastrophic, if you just look from across the street, a dude going through some, a woman going through some, you're most likely going to go towards 100%. The woman to go and cuddle. 100%. And not to say that there's something that's wrong with that. I think it's just naturally innate within nature, because for the dude you go out and conquer, for the lady you go and you preserve. Well, like, so naturally that's what it is.
Man, when you're faced with adversity, you need to attack the adversity.
Because there's no alternative.
There's no alternative. If there's a lion I don't know why I keep using a lion. That's the animal I think. We're in Florida. A fucking alligator is in your house. A woman, if she goes, oh my God, alligator, starts crying, it's okay, because what the fuck is she going to do against an alligator? You put an alligator in here, my wife is fucking toast. You know? Like, but with me, I'm like, yo, get the strap. Like, let's take this motherfucker out. So guys, like, when there's a problem or any sort of adversity, they're expected to solve it.
Right, and even if you don't solve it, you were to die in the process of probably trying to solve, because more often than not, and I saw a video, it was going viral, where they had said, they asked a group of women, you know, if you had to, you know, die, it's you or your spouse has to die. The women were like, well, you know, my husband or you know, the man, you let him die. Why do I have to die for? And the dude's like, oh, myself, I'll go. So it's like, naturally, I think for guys, the big struggle that exists is it's almost like you're called to self-sacrifice for the betterment of not only, you know, yourself and who you care about, but then also for women as well. But we live in a day and age where almost you get no credit for that. There's no acknowledgement for that.
There is acknowledgement. Because I think, but the issue, I think, remember how I talked about the bottom and the top?
Yeah.
Now, like, my wife looks at me, she's like, your life is so easy. You don't have to do anything. Because I don't have to do shit. Like, if I wanted to, I could chill my entire life. It's not in me to do that. But because I've built, like, a brand, a business.
Yeah, you could sit on the fruits of your
I live
labor.
a very easy fucking life, and I get a lot of acknowledgement for that. People look at me and be like, yo, you're a successful person.
Right.
You did a great job. But they didn't see the fucking, because I tell her this all the time. I'm like, yeah, you see my life now, and you're like, yo, you got it easy. Like, I'm struggling with this baby. You got it easy. You take meetings all day. You get to sleep. Like, I don't get to do that. I'm like, yeah, but you didn't see when I was 16 to 23, 24 years old, when no one gave a fuck about me. No one cared about me. If I was sad, it didn't matter to the world. I would stay up fucking late trying to start a business. I had no support system. It was really, really depressing and sad and like a dark place. And a lot of men get stuck there. And I feel like they don't get acknowledgement for being in that place. And if they never get out, they never get the acknowledgement. Because
that's the part that I think that I was going towards, because here you have a bunch of dudes who are in that dark spot where they're like, hey, I'm gonna put everybody else first. I'm gonna sacrifice. I'm gonna risk everything to try to build something, not only for my own benefit, but something that could work towards taking care of my friends, taking care of my family, building a legacy. But in the midst of the building portion, until you make it to the successful portion, that's where people give a fuck. When you're still in the building portion, nobody gives a shit. At all. You've got nobody to turn to. Nobody's coming to rescue you. You fall, nobody's here to pick you up.
Right.
And that's where I think we've gotten to the point where in society, those dudes are starting to revolt. Hence why I think the red pill is starting to build so much, because so many dudes feel like, yo, I'm going through it. Nobody gives a fuck. But there's an understanding in this stage, nobody's supposed to give a fuck about you. It's so weird.
Like, it's almost like a nuanced topic, because it's one of those things, right, where I think you need that. If you're a man, you need that to make you a fucking beast. Because the second they start giving you acknowledgement, we acknowledge your mental health, and you're like, all right, cool. People acknowledging me, you feel a little bit like safer. You lose that like fire, that darkness. We talked about it. David was asking me, he was like, yo, why do you think like you are successful the way you are? I'm like, cause I was a fucking loser, bro. And there's nothing wrong with being a loser, because as a man, the beautiful part about being a loser as a man, you can change it.
You can change it.
So I was a loser. And it gave me drive to like become somebody. Because at the end of the day, like you said, no one's coming to save you. I could have sat my entire life feeling sorry for myself, feeling bad, being like, oh, no one's acknowledging my mental health. And it doesn't do anything. But when you actually change it, you have the opportunity as a man to become great, and then you get all of that acknowledgement. So I think with women, it's like a disbursement of acknowledgement across all women. Whereas men, you either get none or you get all of it. Because when you look at like, and that's kind of why there's a whole feminism movement, is because they look at guys and they're like, why are men getting credit for everything? Because the truth is, great men get credit for everything. Yeah. You think about like history, right? Like Alexander the Great, Napoleon, Genghis Khan. It's like great men get credit for everything. All of society. Even like presidents, George Washington. We've never had a female president. Yep. Great men get acknowledgement for everything. Women get acknowledgement across the board, but it's not as much as a great man. And then men that aren't great, they get zero. Zero, none. Which is why you have kind of the predicament that you're in, where it's like a lot of guys feel sad, feel lonely, feel depressed. And in fact, I think if you look at it, it's like majority of suicides are men. Yeah, vast majority is men. And they ran a study in 2021 where 63% of men are single under the age of 30, only 34% of women. And then furthermore, you have 15% of men in the last 3-4 some years had reported that they have no close friends, and that's up 12% from 3% in 1990. That's crazy. It's weird because there's not really a solution for that. Because the reason that kind of happens is because right? You're going to have bitches, bro. You're going to have like a bunch of them. Mm-hmm. If you have 30 girls throwing themselves at you, wanting to be the one. Yeah, but you've got the status, you've got the money. It's a different kind of situation. There's a bunch of girls that are like, oh, that's my boyfriend. And he's kind of like, I'm single. But 30 girls. So like a lot of girls are going to throw themselves at these guys, and that's why men are single. Because think about it, the 40% of men that aren't single, all the women are there. They're all throwing themselves at those guys that have money, that have this. And it's crazy that we were talking about this, because I thought about this the other day too. When men say, "Oh, I don't like, I don't like that women. I don't like women that like money."
It's foolish.
It's foolish, because that's like saying, as a guy, you don't like hot girls.
Yeah.
A man liking a hot girl is the same thing as a woman liking a man with money.
It's hypergamy. It's just what it is. I think where the issue is, you have a lot of, and mostly it's the guys who don't have the resources. They're jealous because women who are at their level are able to attain men at that level, but those same guys at that level can't get women who are at a higher level, right? Yeah. But because I've always said I support hypergamy, I completely understand it. The only issue that I have with it is if you're lying about the situation. Because I had a video that had gone viral when I was talking about, there was a young lady who had said, well, she believes in hypergamy and how men should always pay for women across the board, which when you get to a certain level, you're able to go and facilitate that. However, if you're a woman who brings absolutely nothing, like you're not trying to add anything to this man's life at all, you just think, hey, I have to be taken care of just because I'm pretty. What makes you selectable amongst the other ladies who can be selected? You have to also look at it from the perspective of, you think you're not the only girl who's throwing yourself at them. You have to give them a reason to want to pick you. If it's just a matter of you opening up your legs and you getting penetrated, then by all means that works. But if you wanted something long term, that's not going to be something that's sustainable over time. But with the guys who are in a situation where they don't have any close friends, they have absolutely no options to engage in any kind of romanticism, anything of that nature. I think the biggest issue of course, social media plays a large role because now, and on top of that, people don't have no hobbies. They're all isolated. Everybody's kind of just become a hermit of some sort. They don't go outside. A lot of people gotten completely discouraged. Like the amount of people who can't hold a conversation is crazy.
Yeah, I think
it's wild.
Guys fall down deeper into the rabbit hole because it's easy to feel hopeless when you see other guys that are winning. Yeah. And you're not there.
And you feel like you can't compete.
Alone. And you're alone. I think there's strength in like support systems. Mm-hmm. So like with a girl, no matter who you are, they're like, "Oh, girl, we're here for you," right? With guys, people are not gonna be like, "We're here for you," because there's a natural distrust with women to men. When women see men, they naturally think, "Oh, he's trying to fuck me." Yeah. You know, and most of the time, guys are trying to fuck you. Yep. You know, so like, there's a natural distrust, so they're not gonna just be like, "Yo, are you okay? Is everything okay? Like, we're here for you." It doesn't happen. So as a guy, you just feel alone. You'll feel isolated. And trust me, like I said, I didn't have I think part of the reason that I wanted to build a social media following is because I was looking for acceptance, which then spiraled into like, okay, this is an actual business and I actually am making a change and doing this. But when it started, I was just like, yo, I want acceptance from people, you know? And again, making the money, I wanted acceptance from the opposite sex, but I also wanted acceptance from my peers as a man. Mm-hmm. Because at the end of the day, money talks. The dude with the biggest bank account, that's the baddest motherfucker in the room. Indeed. You know? So I wanted these things which drove me to make money and do this stuff. But as a guy, if you have no support system and you don't have that same internal drive to achieve, it gets real easy to get fucking lost in the world, bro. And it's fucked up because I think social media is contributing to it. Yeah, heavily, because I myself, and it's not necessarily the reason why I started my platform, because when I got on socials, it was just a matter of like, hey, you know, I wanted to see if I can get into comedy, did stand up. It's a smaller pool of people. Post online, 1,000 views overnight. It's a larger pool of people. Just start posting there. But I always, throughout my life, had elements of chiseled Adonis that exist in there. Yeah. But I never always had the confidence or the visibility per se. Then as I grew, and I've been, over the course of the last 8 years, become even more of this here character, which is just me, just amplified to like 10. But when I was younger, I was never just boisterous and out there and all this other stuff in front of people and all this other stuff. So it had to build over time. I think a lot of people check out because they're not willing to remain consistent in the game. Like there's a bunch of people who quit because maybe you're not seeing the immediate, because I think dudes now fall victim to that instant gratification, maybe almost more than women do. Yeah. Because naturally, you know, attention is that fuel source for women. Right. So you know they're going to have the instant gratification. For
dudes, delayed gratification has always been what's on the marquee. But now with the advent of social media, it's like dudes are almost like, oh, well, if I don't get it immediately, well, what's the purpose?
I think the anger comes from the fact that men are born with no significance. As a man,
Right.
you have to earn your significance
Right.
in society. A woman, you're born with significance. So when a woman's born into the world, right, one of the beautiful things, I had a daughter, the world will value my daughter no matter what.
Right.
You know? Up until maybe, let's say she's 50 years old, but if she becomes a mother, her significance stays relevant. Like, the only people that, like, society doesn't really add significance to, that's a woman. It's like
Single, childless, elderly.
like, elderly.
Well, no, elderly women get to, I think when
Yeah.
you're in that odd middle-aged
Yeah,
spot.
but women have significance across the board. They're born with it.
Yeah.
A man has no significance until he earns it. And the beautiful part about a man's significance is your significance is more than most people in the world. So you, like I said, you're at the top or at the bottom. But as a man, you're born with no significance. And I think guys get angry because internally as human beings, we want fairness, right? So we look at the world and we're like, this is so fucking unfair. Why are all these, because I was a victim to this. Growing up, I was 18, 19 years old. And I would see these girls like getting fucking free passes to do anything. All the coolest shit. Maybe I was 21, but girls were getting into all the hottest clubs. They were at the fucking tables. Guys had to wait an hour in line.
Yep.
They had to fucking pay to get in.
$20 to $50 at the
They had
door.
to stand at the bar. I think I told the story before, but
Yeah.
I remember I went to a club in LA. I was like 21 years old. I wanted to see what it was about because I see all the hot girls going to this club. Wanted to see what it was about. I was like, yo, there's gonna be so many hot girls in there. It's gonna be sick, right? I end up going to this club. I wait in line for an hour. I'm like, it's gonna be worth it. I get to the door. The guy's like, yo, it's $100. I'm like, what the fuck? And I'm thinking, whatever, I'm gonna go and there's be a bunch of hot girls. I pay $100 to get in. No hot girls, no women aren't talking to me. They're all there at the tables with all these rich guys. I had the shittiest experience at that club that I went to. And it's because I had no significance. Whereas these women, they didn't earn the significance. They are just girls.
You're born
so they
with
got
it, yeah.
in and they were at these tables. So I could have taken it two ways, right? As a man, like this is the thought process. I could have taken it in a way where like, be angry at women. Oh, it's so fucking unfair that they're able to do it. What the fuck did they do? They didn't do anything with their life. Like, my life is not fair. Or I could have said, hey, I have to earn my significance because that's the world we live in. And I chose the second route, fortunately, which is why you have like these guys that get angry at women, which is why the red pill is popular, because they misplace that anger of like, they're not angry at women, they're angry at the world, but they don't know where to direct the anger, so they direct it at women.
Right.
Like, life is unfair. The fuck? Why do they get to go in here and enjoy and have a good life, and I don't? What, I have to work for it? That's so messed up. I'm not going to do that. And they choose to not do it because they don't see the picture at the end. Because the part at the end that you don't see, at the tables, there was one guy, there was 5 girls. So that guy has the significance of those 5 women.
To get in the 5 that now gravitate towards him.
Exactly.
So it's like when you delay it down the line,
You have greater
you now have
significance.
greater significance
So
so
you're
that
born
you
with
do
none.
less work. So the same thing that you're upset and jealous and envious of that the women naturally have, you can then earn that. You build your
You
significance
can
up
earn it tenfold.
tenfold
Whereas
down the
a
line.
woman, it's
Right.
very hard for her to raise her significance. Because think about it, we talked about it in the last episode or 2 episodes ago. We said, oh, women that make 6 figures are angry because they can't find a man. Yeah, because men don't give a fuck if you make money.
Correct.
As a man, you can raise your significance. You make more money, you get richer, you become more important.
And
right?
furthermore, and when the video that I had made a few years back, that when it had gone viral, the young lady, she kept talking about how she makes 6 figures, therefore she should be with somebody who makes. But the entire talking point is you still want to be submissive, taken care of, and you want to contribute nothing. So why would you think that the money that you make works as a talking point to try to attract a guy when it still bears no significance to
guy's
their
making
life?
that much money,
And if
he
a guy's
doesn't
making
care.
that money, he doesn't care. Like, it's legitimately like, oh, really? Oh, that's cool. It's like a guy who, if you meet a dude who's in their 30s, but they used to be amazing, like they were cool in high school. Who gives a fuck? We're in
Yeah.
our 30s. Who cares?
Yeah.
So you make this money. Oh, wow, that's great. If you're financially irresponsible, who cares? But even then, if I have my own money, I don't give a damn. So I can provide for you. I can provide for myself. We're good. But if you want to spend your money, go ahead. If you don't, well, you know,
I think that's where the anger comes from when it comes to like the opposite sexes, is because women are angry that they can't raise their significance. Men are angry because they're born with no significance. And that's kind of where it gets fucked. And typically you see the happiest people are the guys that worked really hard, they made a bunch of money, and then the girls that are kind of like, okay, I'm gonna hang out with this guy, I'm not gonna worry about like if I'm important or not, I'm gonna get married, I'm gonna have a kid, I'm gonna live a very good life. I was born with significance, and I'm gonna utilize this to get married and have a good life. I was talking to my wife, and she was saying, what do you want for your daughter? Like, what do you want for our daughter, right? And I'm like, man, if it was ideal, if I got to choose, arranged marriage. I get to pick who she marries, make sure it's a good guy that's gonna take care of her, take care of the family, and like has his head on straight. That's my ideal situation. I don't want her fucking out there like
getting hurt,
becoming a boss woman, getting hurt. Because believe it or not, even if she becomes a boss woman, she's still probably gonna be working for a dude anyways.
unless she runs her own stuff. But then at that point, you're like a mogul kind of situation. The percentage of that happening is so.
I look at mogul women, and I'm kind of like, are you like? I look at Oprah. I'm like, are you happy, Oprah? You ain't got no kids. Like, I don't know if I
mean,
want
given Oprah's a special case because you could argue she sort of sold her soul and things of that nature.
Yeah,
She's
that's
just
a whole
terrible human being.
I don't know if I want my fucking daughter to be Oprah.
Right.
You know, like it'd be great to say, but like that's not the happiest women I see are not Oprah. Oprah feels like it's like compensating. It feels like I'm so happy, I'm Oprah, and like I'm giving, and it's like
because you dealt with, and even Oprah's story, Shorty dealt with a shit ton of trauma coming up to make it to that point. You don't want your child going through, because of course we can never lay out the blueprint for the children to where it's like, hey, you're gonna live this kind of life and avoid all, negativity and things of that nature, because there's no way. Everybody has to live their own life. But I think especially as a parent, because now that you're in parenthood now, you look at it like, hey, if it was up to you and you had to choose, because I'm pretty sure if your parents were in the same position that you were in, you think they would want you to, all right, the same upbringing that you had? Yeah, let's have Renee go through that again. Fuck no. If my parents was able to be in the position that I'm in and they flipped the script, there's no way I come up the way that I come up.
Yeah.
You almost always want your children not to just be able to just cruise through life, but don't have to deal with the hardship that you had to deal with. Because you know how you were able to overcome it. There's no guarantee, because everybody's different. There's no guarantee that they'll overcome the same kind of trauma and pain and adversity. So you almost want to lessen the blow, but there's almost no way for you to do it.
I think as far as men's mental health, I think part of the reason comes from parents babying their sons like they would baby their daughters, and they don't prepare them for like the harshness of the world. Yeah,
you have to be in a situation where you have an understanding of what's coming. I think there's certain ways, because my dad never actually verbally told me, hey, this is what adulthood is like. My mom would always say, life is not too sweet. That's her favorite goddamn quote. But she'd be like, oh, life is not too sweet or whatever. But I was one of the children who was very curious. So I would watch my parents and their day by day, and I had an understanding of what bills, money, and everything by age 11, just because I was one of those people who just poke my head into shit. So I'm just looking like, okay, so you're making, I used to look at my parents' pay stubs, like, okay, so you're making this amount of money per hour, so that would mean by the end of the week you make this much. How much are you spending? So then anytime they'd go to the grocery store, I would help them put the stuff into, whether it had been the pantry or inside the fridge, but I would look through every bag for the receipt. Then I would have I'd say, all right, so this costs this much. All right, cool. So I wonder how much that they spend on this one. Randomly, I'd go into their I'd go in my mom's purse, I'd go in my dad's wallet, I'd see how much money they had left. I never knew of the existence of the bank until I found the books back when people kept the bank books. And I would just sit over here and just look at so they spent this much, they have that much come. Okay, so if they work for this, so if when I get older, I have to work, if I'm making this much, oh, I don't like that. That's a lot. So I was one of those kids who just I had to figure that out. Now, if it's me who's a parent now, if I was a parent now and I'm raising a child, I would have you already, maybe not at that young age, but prepare you for what's going to come in life. And if I have sons, that would be the situation. Like, hey, listen, I need you to understand, you hit 18 and you got to go into the workforce. You have to understand finances. You got to understand money. And furthermore, you got to identify what is your why in life. Because when you're young, you could always go and party, fuck away some money, go have yourself some fun. That's all well and good. But as long as you're still living and inhaling oxygen, I need you to understand life is going to happen at one point. Will you be prepared? Because I can only set up, your understanding for only so far, because I think children who are going through incredibly young age, I think when you're between like infancy up until about like age 10, you have no clue of what like rich or poor, you don't know what the fuck's going on.
I think with sons and daughters, you raise them differently. I think
you have to. You have to
keep them away from trauma, because I think trauma men and women deal with trauma differently.
Absolutely.
If a woman experiences a lot of trauma, it kind of like, it fucks with her ability to like feel correctly, to like process emotion. Because women's superpower, just chemically, it's like they process emotion very well. They're better at like emotions and being touchy-feely and talking about that stuff. A woman that's been deadened like through trauma and like has been conditioned to not feel those emotions, it's like
you're cold.
They're cold and broken. It's like, I don't know if I want that with like my wife. She cries when she looks at her dog. She's like, I love you so much. I'm like, this is so cute. This is so pure. But I'm like, I don't know if that's good for her, because now she's going to look at you crying. She's going to think she did something bad. But she just cries because she loves her baby so much, which is cool as fuck.
Well, it all depends on what, because if you're crying happy tears, when the children, as they grow up, they would associate crying with happiness.
Yeah.
So he's like, oh, wow, I'm happy. So now you got somebody crying tears of joy.
Yeah.
And then looking at that would be something like, oh, wow, look. I remember any time that I would cry, something devastating would have to freaking happen. But you over here crying because you're so happy. How the times have changed, you know?
And I think for sons, you kind of want an element of trauma in there. And I think in order to do that, you have to let them know. Like, you have to tell your sons, hey, life is not fair. Mm-hmm. It's going to be rough for you out there. Like, you have to tell them and put this in their brain. And it's like, as a man, you have to understand that, like, life is not fair. It's going to be rough for you out there. But you also get to be great, and you get to experience greatness.
Mm-hmm. You just got to go out there and earn it.
In ways that no one else gets to do.
Yeah, you just got to go out there and earn it. Because I think what age do you think you would have? Because I think from teenage, I think from a very young age, you can try to instill it, but they won't understand it until, in my opinion, junior high school to high school. I think junior high school and in high school, those ages are when you have to almost drill into their brains of understanding, like, yo, you got to go out there and earn it. Because from those young, when you have kids from a toddler up until about like age 10 through grade school, well, before you elementary, before you make it a junior high, you can instill that, but I don't think it really hits home until you get to that point. Because I think around 11 in junior high and high school is when the exceptional kids start to separate themselves. Yeah. At least, especially academically, they start to separate themselves. But then even physically, you could start to see the kids who are going to become like great athletes. They start to show themselves.
I think if you teach them at a young age, because kids at a young age, they understand what competition is.
Right, 100%.
When I was a kid, I was super competitive already. So you might not be like, yo, life. My son's 5. I'm not gonna be like, yo, life is unfair. It's going to kick you in the dick. Like, I'm not going to teach him that. But I'm going to teach him, like, hey, you got to earn that first place.
Yeah, you try to set up the principles.
Like, there's going to be other kids that are working really hard. You got to work harder than them if you want to get the first place. You got to practice a lot. You got to train a lot. You got to put in a lot of hard work. It's not going to be easy, but when you win that first place, and I think if you get them addicted to that feeling of, like, first place trophy, first place plaque, right? Like the other day, I went on a tangent. I'll go on random things. I'm really a profound thinker when it's like 3 a.m. in the morning. But I was hanging plaques on my wall for like different achievements. It's like, oh, I made $1 million. Oh, 100,000 subscribers on YouTube. 10,000 orders on Shopify. Like, I'm already planning like the plaques on the wall. And then I drew parallels because when I was a kid, I did martial arts. I did karate. And the best feelings in the world for me was winning those trophies. And it's weird because they're like, it wasn't anything serious. Like, I think back, I'm like, these are like fucking $11 trophies that you buy at a trophy shop. But for me, like, I would travel to different states and compete against kids who've been training to win a fucking trophy and feel good about myself, because that was the best feeling in the world. I think you can get kids addicted to that. Like, if I get my son at 6 years old addicted to like winning karate trophies or martial arts trophies or basketball trophies, and he carries that with him and like he doesn't lose it throughout his entire life, I think as long as you make the process enjoyable. I don't want to like force him to do it, because then he's like, oh, I hate this, I don't want to do this. Like, yeah, I got first, but I didn't enjoy it. If I make it enjoyable and I make it fun,
you have to have them enjoy the journey. But then the only downside is, the caveat would be, if you now get to the point where, all right, you're addicted to winning, but then you run into a spot to where you haven't won in a while. Now that adversity, can you climb up that hill? Because you would also have to instill within them, like, hey, it's not always, obviously, you know, it's not always going to be easy, but now you actually experiencing it. Because if you go through age 4 up until 10, you were big fish in a small pond. Now you become small fish in a big pond and you losing. So now it's between age 11 and you don't know, but it's between age 11 and 17 before you get that other trophy, plaque, medal. That 6 years, you got to be wired to say, yo, I'm working towards a goal. I'm working towards a goal. Because I think that's usually when kids, whether they had that instilled in them or maybe they were learning on the fly, that's when they start to quit, and that's when it builds. Because I think we're all creatures of habit. So by the time we make it to adulthood, we're in a situation where if there was something from childhood that we used to always, like, that's what we would revert to. Things get hard, I quit, I cry, I go in the corner, I isolate myself. Now, you used to do that when you were 16, you're wondering why you're doing it when you're 29 because it was built then.
Yeah.
So you almost have to instill that into the children. Like, hey, I want you to get addicted to winning, but you got to understand winning's not always a guarantee.
Yeah.
If you want to win, you also have to open up the door to possibly losing.
And I think I want to, that's fire. For that, I think that solves itself when you get them addicted to the process of working. Because for me, to this day, I love like sitting down and just locking in on something and just fucking grinding it out. I love that like grind process of like figuring something out. And it's mostly like just like figuring out a problem or trying a new thing that I think will work. You know, like I love that process. So I think if you can get them addicted to the process and enjoying the process, and it's really easy when it comes to sports like basketball. I play basketball for hours.
Right.
I'm getting better, I'm training, but I'm also enjoying it. If you can get them addicted to the process and enjoy the process of getting better in the same way that like some people really enjoy working out. They just love like pumping a muscle, right?
Yep.
Like if I was one of those guys that enjoyed that like pumping a muscle, I'd be jacked. But unfortunately I'm not. That's something I have to force myself to do. But there's some people that are just addicted to that process, like gym rats, addicted to the gym. The gym gives them dopamine, they feel good, and they become successful in that endeavor. So I think part of it is just making the process enjoyable so it sticks with the kid, and then teaching them about adversity, teaching them that life isn't fair, and then getting them addicted to also the win of putting in all that work. So
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
But I think a lot of men would avoid the mental health issues if they approach life like that.
True.
Going back to the topic of men's mental health, I think a big part of it is because those sons are not instilled with those values.
They're not. And then even now when you go into adulthood, if you look at, I don't want to say life as a game, because a lot of times there's people who rage quit, and unfortunately that's where you,
Oh my goodness.
take yourself out. But ultimately, if you were to put yourself in a position to where you view life like, hey, listen, there's always a way out. We all deal with adversity. I think too often people go down the dark rabbit hole of, well, it seems like there's no way out and there's no alternative. But sometimes you could always relocate. I told my brother this because he's going to actually practice it next month, where I said, like, I know you don't have that much money, but you would be surprised the amount of clarity that you can get without that much money if you just go and relocate. You don't need to hop on like a private jet to go fly somewhere. They run specials for different airlines. You could do a day trip somewhere. Spirit may suck, right? Funny enough, Spirit got ranked like top 5 airlines in the country. Like, how? But you could book somewhere and go somewhere for one day. You could do a day trip. Take the earliest flight. You could fly to Miami for $54. And fly back home for $54. You can fly to Atlanta for like $60 or whatever. If you got $150 or something, book a flight, fly somewhere in the morning, go somewhere and just get clarity. Just see more of the world.
Yeah.
Maybe you could get like a free night at a hotel, or maybe you stay at a motel. All you need is just somewhere to sleep. You don't need somewhere like that. Just get perspective. Rent a car. If you have a car, drive somewhere. Or maybe rent a car, drive somewhere, go out, sit by the water, look out, just think, open up your horizons. Because so many times people put themselves in a box. Because it's like, okay, I go to work, I go to church, I go to school, I go, and you have a routine of what you do. But if you're in a spot where you have that routine and it's not benefiting you, you feel like shit, you're mentally tapped out, you feel like you're making absolutely no progress, well, you got to change your habits.
Yeah.
Do something new. And it doesn't take that much bread to do it.
I think the issue with the mental health thing, right, is like people want their mental health to be fixed instantaneously.
Yeah.
They don't want to work. They don't realize like the mental health comes from the work that you put into it, right? Like someone validating you will give you temporary fulfillment with your mental health. But when someone has true admiration, instead of pity, it's not a pity validation, right? Like men's mental health awareness is great because you shine light on what men have to go through, which is shitty. There's a lot. But genuine admiration is the greatest fucking mental health awareness a man could have. Because if you're getting mental health awareness, you're like, yo, I'm sorry you have to have a hard life. It's pity admiration.
Yeah, it's pity party. Right.
It's
And that's
like, oh,
and that'll never cure what you
and
have going on.
That's the issue with the whole like mental health men's
Yeah.
mental health awareness
Yeah.
month. It's like, hey, I see what you're going through. Don't worry, keep your chin up. It's a fucking pity admiration. But when someone genuinely admires you, and like, because I see it from my wife all the time. Like, and my wife's maybe a bad example, but from other people, I'm like, yo, like the fact that you went through everything you went through and you made it out on top,
and you're still here.
That.
Exactly. Because I think if
respect
they
that.
change the verbiage in whether it been therapy, whatever the case may be, like if a guy who's going through some shit goes and explains his whole story, and then you end it like, wow, you went through all that, you still here. Or you bring up something to where it's like a couple years ago, like, really, you conquered that? No, it may suck right now, but you haven't noticed that you did this before? So that's when the wheels start turning. Like, wait a minute, hold on. So I didn't need to have all of my emotions validated and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
All I have to do is show you that you're capable.
Facts.
And you've done it before.
Facts.
The moment that happens, it starts to rewire your brain. You're like, hold on, wait a minute. What the fuck going on over here? Here I thought I was in this damn pit, but I was in the pit before and I came out. I'm just in the pit again. I just got to come out again. And that's it. That's all it takes.
Yeah. No,
you just have to change the way you go about things. Because I think in this month where they're shining a spotlight on men's mental health, I think men just have to understand, if you find yourself in a routine of where things are shitty and it's terrible, just change your habits. And it's not easy.
I think there's two things.
But you got to do different things.
There's two good things that came from like this whole movement, I guess, or even the red pill movement, right? Or I'm sorry, there's a good and a bad. The bad side, there's people that misinterpret it, the red pill movement, and be like, yo, fuck women. That's what they get from that. They're like, yeah. Other people feel like they should say fuck women, so let's hate women together. That's the bad that comes
That's
from
the
it.
bad.
And it's a misinterpretation of the message.
Absolutely.
I think the good thing that comes out of it is it builds hope for men, because men don't need anything else. They need hope. They need to see the situation they're in. And I think this is kind of like why I'm big on my message. They need to see someone else that was in their situation and realize if they could do it, I could do it too. And it gives them hope. And if it gives them hope, it allows them to keep pushing through and working through it. And eventually, a society with men that are a lot stronger, more capable, richer, it's going to be a beautiful fucking world. You know, if you had a bunch of men that were just like capable, stronger, richer, they would be the ones getting validated anyway. Society's going to validate you regardless. People might say, oh, like, they don't validate men. They do validate men, but they validate great men. So your job as a man is to become great.
Become great.
That's when they'll validate you.
Right. And then furthermore, it doesn't even only boost your life. It boosts the life of the people around you. You become great. You're able to take care of not only yourself, you take care of your loved ones. Maybe you could look out for your parents. You could look out for your spouse. You could look out for your friends. You could look out for your children. You could look out for your cousins. You look out for everybody, because you're now in a position and a mental headspace to where every great man, it's not just them. It's their whole ecosystem.
Right.
And when great men get together, great things happen. So ultimately, you should always strive to become great. And that's our message from us to you here. So for all the fellas,
Banger.
take moments to better yourself. That's ultimately the message here today. But ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, this has been yet another episode of the Assiduous Podcast. I am your co-host, the diligent, vigilant, meticulous, sagacious, conscientious, analytical, methodical individual, the chiseled Adonis. He is a serial entrepreneur, Filipino parents, tycoon, Rene Laccard. And this is, we are
Assiduous.
Assiduous.
Banger.